I'm Vicky, sitting in my new home in Asheville, sipping my morning coffee on the porch. I'm surrounded by the sounds of a life that truly matters. My kids are laughing, and my husband is getting ready for school. It's a peaceful scene, a stark contrast to the chaos and pain of the past. About a year ago, I received a text that shattered my illusions of family. My father, Richard, a man who had made his fortune in the high-end art auction business, sent a brutal message in the family group chat. We were in the middle of planning my mother, Elizabeth's birthday party. Everyone was chatting about decorations and the menu when his words hit me like a bullet. Don't come around looking for money. You're a disgrace. I was at a trendy coffee shop at the time. The barista called my name twice, but all I could focus on were the laughing emojis from my cousins and the words of my sister, Grace, who said, "Finally, Dad said it." I stared at the screen, and the world around me faded. The eyes in the cafe, the chatter of customers, all became a blur. All I could hear were their mockeries, cutting me out of the family. But little did they know, in that moment of silence, I was already formulating a plan to break their perfect facade. I should introduce myself properly. I run a custom furniture, making business just outside Seattle. It's not as glamorous as my family's enterprises, but I take old, discarded wood and turn it into pieces of art that families love. I started with a rusty old van and a set of second-hand tools. After years of hard work, I was making around $90,000 a year. For me, it was a source of pride, but for my family, it was a constant punchline. I live with my husband, Kevin, and our two kids. Noah, who is 10 and is crazy about soccer, and Mia, 6, who has dreams of being a ballerina and is always twirling around our living room. Kevin is a music teacher at a local middle school. He doesn't make as much as my sister's husbands, but he's the most caring and dedicated man I've ever known. He comes home with chalk on his clothes because he spends extra time helping students learn instruments. To me, he's a gem, but to my parents, he's just a low-earning schoolteacher. Our house is a simple 3-bedroom place with a small workshop at the back where I do my furniture making. The garden needs a lot of work, but it's ours. I know every nail in the wood, every piece of furniture I've crafted myself. When I walk through that door, I feel safe and at home. But whenever my phone lit up with a message from the family group chat, that feeling would disappear. On the outside, our family looked like a page from a high society magazine. My father, Richard, loved to tell the story of how he built his art auction business from the ground up. In reality, he inherited a large art collection from his father that gave him a head start. My mother, Elizabeth, was all about appearances. She hosted elegant dinner parties, and the house was always decorated to the nines to keep up with her wealthy friends. My sister Grace was the golden child. She was a top-tier corporate lawyer with a hedge fund manager husband. My other sister, Lily, worked in luxury fashion sales and drove a fancy sports car that my parents bought for her. I was the black sheep, the one who worked with her hands. At family dinners, my dad would introduce Grace and Lily with all their achievements and then just wave at me and say, "That's Vicky. She makes furniture." It was like I was a phase he hoped I'd grow out of. One Thanksgiving, he gave Grace and Lily designer handbags worth thousands of dollars, and then he gave me a box of sandpaper. He thought it was a hilarious joke, and I forced a smile. I endured all the side eyes, all the snide remarks over the years because I told myself that at least I was still part of the family. But that text from my father was the final straw. The group chat exploded with more insults and mocking emojis. My cousin, Brandon, a stockbroker, sent a meme of me with my tools, looking like a clown. I felt sick to my stomach, but I didn't reply. I just sat there, thinking about all the times they had made me feel small. That night, after Noah and Mia were asleep, I told Kevin everything. I poured out all the pain and humiliation of years. Kevin sat beside me at the kitchen table, holding my hand in silence. He didn't say, "I told you so," even though he could have. He just listened like he always did. When I finished, he asked me, "What do you want to do?" I looked at him, at the man who spent his weekends fixing the leaky roof because we couldn't afford a contractor, at the man who graded papers late into the night for ungrateful students. I knew then that I didn't just want revenge for myself. I wanted to show our kids what it meant to have dignity. I wanted to prove that walking away with your head held high was stronger than begging for acceptance. So I pulled out my phone and canceled the reservation for my mother's birthday party at a five-star restaurant she'd always boasted about but never been to. The deposit of $3,000 was gone in a click, along with all the special arrangements I'd made. The next morning, I called an old friend, Ethan, who ran a digital marketing agency. I'd helped him build custom-made shelves for his office when he was just starting out. I told him I wanted a proper website to showcase my furniture pieces with photos, testimonials, and a portfolio. By the end of the call, I could feel a shift. Later that week, I reached out to my cousin, Jasper, who had left the family drama years ago. He lived in Asheville and managed a small real estate rental business. He'd once offered me a place to stay if I ever wanted to get away. For the first time, I seriously considered it. I didn't lash out in the group chat. I just focused on my work. Within 2 weeks, Ethan delivered on his promise. My website was a huge success. Before and after photos of my furniture pieces were like works of art, and testimonials from satisfied customers poured in. Inquiries started coming in from wealthy clients. For the first time, I was being recognized not as the cheap option, but as the best in the business. Jobs tripled overnight. I was walking into mansions and clients were shaking my hand like I was a celebrity. I documented every project with high-quality photos and videos. Each click of the camera felt like a step further away from my family. My family noticed my success. Grace DM'd me, asking suspiciously, "Where did you get the money to buy a table at that charity auction? Those pieces are so expensive." I left her on read. The next day, my mother texted, "I see your business is doing well. Your father has some connections that could help you expand." It was obvious they just wanted to take credit for my success. My father even called my business line once. When my assistant picked up, he hung up immediately. The thought of him, the man who had always looked down on me, choking on his pride was priceless. But the most unexpected thing happened when Lily texted me to meet for coffee. I almost said no, but something in me wanted to hear what she had to say. We met at a small coffee shop on the outskirts of Seattle. She looked different, exhausted, with no makeup and her hair in a messy bun. She admitted, "You were right, Vicky, about everything." She told me how the birthday party went. My father had to book a last-minute venue at a mediocre restaurant. My mother kept complaining about the lack of luxury and was convinced something better had been planned. The whole night was awkward and everyone noticed I wasn't there. For the first time, I saw shame in Lily's eyes. She said, "They only cared about you when you could benefit them." And she was right. By then, Jasper had told me that one of his rental houses in Asheville would be available soon. It was a 4-bedroom house with a large workshop, and the mortgage would be less than what I was paying in Seattle. It sounded like a breath of fresh air. I didn't give my family any explanations. I just posted a photo of moving boxes on social media with the caption, "New Chapter." While they whispered and speculated in the group chat, I stayed silent. Moving day was like a new beginning. The house in Seattle was empty, and the sunlight shone through the bare windows. Noah's soccer ball was in a box, and Mia had drawn pictures on her moving box. Kevin carried the last load out, smiling despite the sweat on his forehead. I took a photo of the empty living room and posted it with the caption, "Leaving toxicity behind is the first step to growth." We drove to Asheville, with Kevin leading in the SUV with the kids, and me following in the rental truck. The wind blew through the open windows, and the sound of the tires on the road was like a symphony of freedom. When we arrived in Asheville, Jasper was there with the keys and pizza. The house was perfect. It had a wide porch, a backyard with a big tree, and a workshop that was 3 times the size of my old one. For the first time in years, I felt free. My business continued to grow. Ethan launched more ad campaigns, and I landed contracts with high-profile clients like tech moguls and wealthy art collectors. One video of me crafting a custom-made dining table for $1 million mansion went viral. My revenue skyrocketed from $90,000 to over $250,000 a year, and then I was on track to reach 7-figure contracts. My family watched from a distance. Messages started pouring in, but all of them were about their own image and how they could benefit. There were no apologies. I ignored them all. Almost a year after I left, the news broke. Richard's art auction business had been involved in a major fraud scandal. Clients were alleging misrepresented art pieces, and there were investigations. The business collapsed, and their assets were seized. Their luxury cars were repossessed, and their mansion was put up for sale. 2 weeks later, my parents showed up in Asheville. They were no longer the wealthy couple they used to be. My mother was applying for part-time jobs at a thrift store, and my father, who was once so proud, was now living on meager savings. I received a voicemail from my father. His voice was weak and broken. "Vicky, we're in a difficult situation. Your mother is not well. Could you help us? Maybe a job for her at your workshop or some consulting work for me." I saved the voicemail, but didn't call back. Then my mother texted, "Please, Vicky. We've lost everything. Grace and Lily can't help. You're our only hope." I showed the message to Kevin. He looked at me and asked, "What are you going to do?" I just smiled and said, "Nothing." But I did arrange for them to have a small one-bedroom apartment, paid for the first month's rent, and then blocked their numbers. Now, I sometimes see them around town. My father sits on a bench in the park, head down, and my mother looks at me from afar in the grocery store. They don't say a word, and I don't need them to. I've built the life that's truly mine, surrounded by the people who love and support me. Family isn't about blood. It's about who stands by you when the world turns its back. I've chosen my own family, the one I've built with my 2 hands. If you've ever had to walk away from people who never valued you, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments and hit subscribe for more.